Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. I'm Ulrika Sullivan. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach and a galactic astrologer. This video is a galactic astrology reading of the Cancer full moon at 4 degrees 58 minutes on December 26th, 2023. Welcome. What I do in these videos, I put an outer layer of fixed stars, celestial bodies, and galactic points to the traditional Western tropical astrology wheel. And that is to help us start to connect to our multidimensional self. These additional points provide a perspective beyond our own solar system. And many of us are very curious at this time. What else is there to learn about my soul's journey, my galactic heritage? And are you curious about your own galactic alignments? Download my Galactic Alignments Reference Guide. A link is below in the description. The fact that the moon is the ruler of this full moon in Cancer puts the focus on home. It puts the focus on nurturing ourselves, but also how we feel nourished and protected. And the moon here in Cancer is also bringing the highlight to constellations that are aligned with this full moon. So in Cancer, we have Canis Major-Sirius B in focus for this full moon. And we also have Canis Minor-Procyon also in focus at this full moon. And I'm going to talk more about these constellations and how their influence with some other constellations too in the mix at this full moon. So stay with me here for the 3 energetic themes that I've pulled out from this full moon chart that influences us at this time. And also, if you want to stay for the questions at the end, these questions are helping to integrate this full moon energy should you want to dive deeper. Before we go into taking a look at the 3 energetic themes that I've pulled out for this full moon in Cancer, I'd like to name the 3 themes first. The first theme I've named Trust Your Intuition. The second theme I've named New Ways of Healing. And the third theme I've named Breaking Karmic Patterns. So let's dive into this new moon in Cancer. So here we have the chart for the full moon in Cancer at 4 degrees and 58 minutes. And I start with just pointing out the sun and the moon are opposite each other. And I've highlighted the moon here, which is conjunct the asteroid Astraea at 6 degrees and 7 minutes. And Astraea is conjunct the Sirius B fixed star at 7 degrees of Cancer. And I want to talk a little bit about the significance of Asteroid Astraea energy here as part of the full moon. If you don't know Astraea as an asteroid, this combination of Sirius B, which is an energy of innovation, adaptability, supportive, and combining that with Astraea, the energy of that asteroid is one of justice, balanced harmony in terms of relationships, but also justice in terms of wanting to have a harmonious environment around oneself. She is called the Star Maiden, and she was said to be living on Earth, but actually left Earth because at that time it was a division and really an environment where the ego was played out very heavily in the collective. And Astraea signifies the need for breaking karmic patterns to be able to get into and come into balance and harmony. And the placement of Astraea in a chart can indicate also where we have a need to let go, or where we actually have an inability to let go to be able to set ourselves free. So the fact that Astraea is conjunct this full moon highlights our need to let go of past galactic heritage patterns and past life patterns that we may have either created ourselves here in this life or inherited from past lives. This is an important highlight, I feel, at this full moon because of the emphasis on home, on nurturing ourselves and coming into balance to feel nourished and protected. So here we have the first theme, trust your intuition. And we can see here, as I mentioned earlier, the full moon conjunct Astraea, conjunct Canis Major-Sirius B. And this energy, if you notice, if you remember from the new moon video in Sagittarius, we have this water trine. And at this full moon, this water trine is still in place because now the full moon is there. And at this new moon, it was held in place by Vesta in this position. But this water trine is really significant because in the first decan, it has to do with how we trust our intuition. In water, that trine between the full moon and Saturn aligned with the royal star Fomalhaut, angelic guidance, our lessons flowing in from Fomalhaut and feeding in a trine here, those lessons that we need to learn and release for increasing our nourishment of ourselves. And maybe we can do that in an innovative, adaptive way. Now, there's also this trine to the Shapley Attractor, one of the biggest universal wisdom drivers that we know of. And the Shapley Attractor here, conjunct Haumea, is this new earth energy. So in addition to this water trine that you may recognize, we also have a whole lot of other energies going on at this full moon. Now, the full moon is making a sextile to Jupiter at 5 degrees of Taurus. And in return, there's a little energy loop here, a half loop, if you will, that builds stability. And also there is a sextile between Jupiter and Saturn conjunct Fomalhaut, and from Saturn to the Sun. And the Sun is opposite the moon, of course, at the full moon. And if we take this a step further, there are also these trines between the full moon and Saturn Fomalhaut, but also the Sun and Jupiter. So the message here is there is a stability in this energy that is in the first decan of water and earth, respectively. So trusting your intuition here is paramount. And this full moon is, of course, linked to the new moon in Cancer that we had on July 17th this year, 2023. And we're going to talk more about that link once we get to talk about the Venus alignments here. But for now, Astraea is the highlight, and Sirius B as a constellation and the energy of Sirius B is bringing in that adaptability so that we can break those karmic patterns, to feel more nurtured, to feel more at home in ourselves, and also to trust our intuition. So here, I just want to show you an image of the stars, how they look as far as constellations go. Canis Major here, Sirius A and B, but also I'm highlighting because we're going to talk about Canis Minor-Procyon later on in this video. So I just wanted to show you here how it looks like in the sky. The second theme I've called New Ways of Healing. And this is quite a complex theme, so bear with me here. I'm going to take you through what I see here. So I want to go back to the water trine to highlight, of course, Haumea conjunct Shapely Attractor there and Saturn. And now this water trine being held in place by the full moon conjunct Astraea, conjunct Sirius B. Now, if we build on this, we find this kite. And you know I'm a fan of kites. I find them everywhere. And this time, at this full moon, we have this kite with Jupiter opposite Haumea conjunct Shapley Attractor. And this is so powerful because here we have Jupiter in Earth, Jupiter at 5 degrees of Taurus opposite Haumea and Shapley Attractor at 2 degrees of Scorpio, Haumea at 1 degree of Scorpio, respectively. And here we are with this grounding Jupiter expansion in Earth, allowing us to believe that what is unseen, we can trust, because Jupiter is here to expand ourselves in what we believe and how we can increase our self-worth and actually make it into a something real. Taurus is very real. So here we have this kite with flowing energy. And since Shapley Attractor is highlighted here with this kite, I just want to show you, some of you may have seen this image before. Some of you who are new have not seen this image before. This is an image that we use in galactic astrology often. It shows in a very nice way the difference in magnitude between the black holes, the universal wisdom drivers, as I call them. And at this full moon, Galactic Center there at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, which is our own Milky Way black hole that drives our galaxy basically here, at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, is very much active at this full moon. And I'll get to that in an upcoming theme. But also we have that square from the full moon to the supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra, which has to do with mastery of relationships with self and others. So this square from the full moon to supergalactic center here is an invitation to grow into that mastery of relationships. The Scorpio energy is often obscured. So Shapley Attractor's influence on us at this time as part of this kite is immense. And with Haumea there conjunct, it's the new Earth energy that is flowing into our Milky Way galaxy here through this kite opposite Jupiter. Now there's more. Here comes the complexity to all of this. And as you can see, here is another build for another kite. I haven't drawn the trines there, but I'm going to walk you through what I see here. So we have a grand minor trine between Neptune, Pluto, and Venus here at 26 degrees of Scorpio, conjunct Beta Centauri Hadar. Beta Centauri Hadar is associated with deep, feminine, unconditional love. And Venus here, conjunct Beta Centauri, at this full moon has a major role. And I'm going to talk more about that. But if you look at this kite, it's not fully, but you can imagine this kite here. The kite is actually pointing towards the Canis Minor constellation Procyon I mentioned earlier on the star map is highlighted here through this kite. So if we talk about Procyon for a moment here, Procyon is this energy associated with this fixed star around education, learning of new ways of healing, spiritual technology that in Cancer here has to do with intuition. Has to do with energy, has to do with other forms of healing that may not be mainstream. And the fact that this kite here is pointing to Procyon, and that is the link to the new moon in Cancer we had on July 17th, 2023. At that new moon was conjunct Canis Minor-Procyon. And we talked about it at that time, but now this is in focus again because of this kite. And here you can also see the star itself. So take a moment to tune into that beautiful blue energy of Procyon. So taken together, you can see here that there is an interplay between Shapley Attractor, Haumea, and Procyon, and supported by these minor grand trines involving the full moon and Venus and good old Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto, who's been in place here for quite a while in this, holding it all in place. But it's important to mention, I feel, that the full moon and Venus, who are traveling much quicker, are aligned to Venus, aligned to Beta Centauri Hadar at 26 degrees of Scorpio. And this other kite here pointing to Canis Minor-Procyon at 26 degrees of Cancer at this full moon. This perspective of bringing new spiritual technology into place, combined with new Earth energy coming from other galaxies, the multiverse that Shapely Attractor is really is, that is an influx of energy, intuitive energy, all in water. Scorpio and Cancer here highlighted and pointed to in this construct here. It gives us the invitation to trust our intuition, the feminine ways of healing, involving energy, involving intuition, involving anything unseen. That is going to be highlighted here now at this full moon. And with Venus at an important alignment, conjunct Beta Centauri Hadar, unconditional love, and establishing this second water trine between Procyon, Neptune, and Venus here, Beta Centauri Hadar, is important. So that builds that additional highlight on Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Now, there's more to tell about Venus and her importance at this full moon, which I will go over in the third theme. The third theme involves Venus and her alignments and interactions with Perseus-Algol, as you can see in opposition here at 26 degrees of Taurus. When we talked about Perseus-Algol last time, it was the new moon in Taurus on May 19th this year. And at that time, that new moon was conjunct Perseus-Algol. And again, Algol is at 26 degrees of Taurus. Now, Venus is in opposition to Perseus-Algol. Throughout this year, we have also talked about Hydra-Alphard at 27 degrees of Leo, and how important the energy of Hydra is in terms of connecting us with our life force, our Kundalini. It really has been a number of activations of Hydra-Alphard energy. And at this full moon, we have two squares activating Hydra again. And this is made due to Venus's placement here at 26 degrees of Scorpio, conjunct Beta Centauri Hadar. So before we move on with this theme, I'd like to just show you Perseus-Algol, Perseus the constellation here, and the fixed star Algol. The fixed star Algol has traditionally a very bad reputation because here we have the myth of Perseus cutting the head of Medusa. You can see his sword there and her head. But I'd like to invite us to start changing our perspective of that energy of Algol, because in a newer interpretation of this myth is that it really is showing us the power of transformation. And if you can see here on Medusa's head, the third eye is highlighted. And what this energy is really about when it comes to new Earth energy is how we can come into balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, instead of keeping ourselves in the karmic patterns, which is really a push-pull between the masculine and the feminine energies within ourselves. Once we are invited and called to balance those energies within ourselves, we are no longer chopping our heads off symbolically in our lives. So the fact that Venus conjunct Beta Centauri Hadar of unconditional love, infusing that in that opposition to Perseus-Algol, is a call to honor the power of transformation, and because it calls for a rebirth. So I just want to give you some context around Venus's importance here, because if you recall, the new moon in Cancer on July 17th this year, the new moon was conjunct Procyon, Canis Minor-Procyon at 26 degrees of Cancer, and trine Beta Centauri Hadar at 26 degrees of Scorpio. At that time, Venus was conjunct Hydra-Alphard at 27 degrees of Leo. And now Venus is conjunct Beta Centauri and squaring Hydra and trine Procyon. So there is a triad of energy here between Procyon, Hydra, Alphard, and Beta Centauri Hadar that is very important as far as bringing in this new feminine influence of spiritual technology, linking that to our Kundalini life force and unconditional love. So this energy is showing up repeatedly, but in different positions now. So I just wanted to highlight that this energy signature is coming back over and over to support us with this shift, this balance between masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. So here we have a little bonus point to this theme, because if we highlight both Perseus-Algol and Procyon here, Canis Minor-Procyon, it forms a yod that is always in place with the Galactic Center at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. But now at this full moon, we have both Mercury and Mars in the vicinity here of the Galactic Center. I interpret this as now with two personal planets in conjunction with the Galactic Center, it means something really important. The Procyon energy here and the Algol energy here really funneled and almost like a laser beam towards the Galactic Center here, highlighting for us that it's time for that rebirth. It is beautiful also with a square between Mercury and Neptune here, holding it into place, the growth opportunity that we have. Neptune is the guide, basically here at 25 degrees of Pisces. So if we want to break those karmic patterns, coming into union between the masculine, feminine within ourselves, it's an invitation to use new spiritual technology for us, new spiritual technology involving the unseen, involving intuition, telepathy, etc., and so that we can experience a rebirth. So in summary, the first theme here, trust your intuition. This full moon conjunct Asteroid Astraea and also Sirius B influence invites us to keep that water trine, trusting our intuition in place, anchored by Jupiter in Earth, opposite the Shapley Attractor. There's some stable forces here that are keeping us grounded at this time, and that water trine is an important one now at this full moon, anchored by the moon and Astraea. The second theme highlights the emphasized focus on water energy with the two kites that we have highlighted, with especially the focus on Canis Minor-Procyon and new ways of healing through the unseen. New spiritual technology is advancing, and together the two water trines in place here. The third theme, breaking karmic patterns and the additional rebirth. Venus's role in this whole process of ascension is essential. Venus is also part of that second water trine, building the foundation for this intuitive evolution. If Venus has now stepped into the next phase of the guidance that she's providing here by connecting with Beta Centauri Hadar, unconditional love. Basically, it's the archetype of that energy associated with Beta Centauri Hadar, fixed star. So Venus has still a key role in the ascension path. And ultimately, the fact that Procyon and Algol are in a Yod with Galactic Center now at this full moon, highlighted by Mercury conjunct Mars at the position of the Galactic Center, is a powerful activation for us all. So I have some questions for you, also tailored to this full moon energy, and I want to share those questions with you next. The first question is, what are the patterns that you need to break to be able to feel more nurtured by yourself and to be able to trust your intuition more? This is a big question. What patterns do you need to break to feel more nurtured and by yourself? The second question is, what is something that you have been thinking about learning more about? What is something that you're curious about? Maybe a healing modality, or a deep dive into astrology or energy techniques. Maybe there's something here that you have been thinking about learning more about in the new year. What is that? The third question is, how can you envision your own rebirth? And again, that's a big question. Big questions here at the end of the year. But it's an optimal time now, when we have Mercury in retrograde, to ask ourselves the bigger questions. How can my rebirth come to fruition? Allow yourself to envision yourself being in an environment that supports you in balanced relationships, whatever that ideal rebirth would look like for you and feel like for you. Now it's a great time to envision these things as Mercury is in retrograde, conjunct the Galactic Center. So allow yourself to sit with these questions now in the holiday season, because once we get into the next year, there's going to be a lot more air and fire energy. So now is the time to contemplate this beautiful opportunity of rebirth. Thank you so much. This was the Galactic Astrology reading of the Cancer full moon. I'm so happy you're here. And are you curious about your own galactic alignments? Download my Galactic Alignments reference guide. The link is below in the description. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for a wonderful year, such huge interest for galactic astrology. And together we'll learn more as we go and into the new year. I'll be back soon with a new video. Have a happy new year and a great holiday season. Bye.